John Locke was an English philosopher who was born on August 29, 1632 in Somerset, England. He was one of the enlightened thinkers such as Karl Marx and the other philosophers, and they worked together and they have created something called the social contract, which will be mentioned today in the interview. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the show, Mr. Locke, and we are extremely fortunate and honored to have you here with us today. So to begin, I would like to ask you why you believe in democracy and why you think that is the ideal form of government.
Your approach is why I believe in the people, the kindness and wiseness of the people, but asking me is like asking the opinion of any other man, for I am no greater. My opinion on why democracy is the best is because democracy is probably the only form of government where the words and voices of the people shall be heard. It provides governmental support for their lives by letting the individual vote as well as the right to private property. What does the whole country benefit if the only voice heard is the one under pressure from the whole country, as well as controlling the country's finance? A government and law should not be under the control of certain powers, but under the voice of every single citizen of the country.
Perfect. So relating to these words, how does the social contract that you and a few other members have put together play a role in your claim and your idea of the ideal government?
The social contract is an implicit agreement among the members of society to cooperate for social benefits. When put into simple terms, a democracy has the same exact principles. In a democracy, all of the members of society have a say on how they feel that they can better their nation as a whole. This abides by the social contract that my colleagues and I have put together, as we believe that all members of society should have a say and cooperate in order to create a prominent and safer society.
Other than your personal beliefs, why do you think that people would rather be ruled by a democracy rather than a dictatorship or state of communism?
Whether it's a lobbying path in the government or saying what career path you choose to follow, people always want to be involved in making decisions, and it should be their granted right as valued members of their respective nations. Take Fulgencio Batista's regime as an example. During his reign as dictator, he led a corrupt nation and had links with organized crime, including sizable gambling, prostitution, and drug profits. In a democracy, things like this would never happen. If the President of the United States were to become corrupt, he would simply be evicted from his office, as the country is not entirely under his rule.
Outside of way.
Fulgencio Batista was born on January 16, 1901 in Benz, Cuba. In 1933, Batista organized a revolution to overthrow dictator Gerardo Mercado. He was later elected as president of Cuba from 1940 to 1944, and later served the second term as dictator from 1952 to 1959, until he was overthrown by Fidel Castro and the communist regime in the Cuban Revolution. Go. So let's start with the obvious question. What governing system do you believe to be the most productive and efficient? A democracy or communism?
I believe that this question is as foolish as it is irrelevant to my ideology. To my mind, the most productive and efficient ideology for governing a country has to be through the form of dictatorship. In a dictatorship, only one individual will be making all the decisions for a country, leading to less liabilities. Imagine allowing the entire population of a country having a say in the government. That thought is completely ludicrous. Although a state ruled by communism is no better, why should the brainless and naive be given as much as the astute and knowledgeable? Ask me the question.
Go.
If that is the case, then why do you think that so many nations and countries around the world, including countries like the United States, rule through a democracy?
Just because countries such as the United States are ruled by a democracy does not mean that they are doing it successfully. Look at all of the issues that are going on within the country. It seems that every week we turn on the news and there has been a shooting in a school or in a movie theater, and this all comes down to their governing ideology. When people feel a sense of power, they start to want more and more. This is why in the United States they are having an issue with gun violence. The people claim that they need a way to defend themselves, and so they demand a right to have guns. And of course, since it's a democracy, the people themselves can have a say for the law to pass. If they were governed by a dictatorship, things like this wouldn't happen.
Go.
If all that you have said to me so far is true, then why do you think that so many people want to be ruled by democracy?
People don't realize all of the responsibility that comes with power. They only think of the power because it's something that they never had. They don't think of the fact that in all opinions in democracy are valued just as equal. And if all votes are equal, then that would mean that the opinions of the ignorant are worth as much as the opinions of the educated. Just look at the 2016 United States elections. In a democracy, any adult has the right to vote and run for president. And when anyone has the right to run, you get people such as Donald Trump. But even worse, you get people who vote for him. Anyone in their right mind would know that if Trump doesn't have the proper qualities to run a country such as the United States, yet he stands a chance of winning. What's even worse is that those ignorant people don't know what they really want and can be easily influenced. An example of this is when Fidel Castro and his Communist Party overthrew me during the Cuban Revolution back in 1959. Fidel and Che Guevara were able to convince the people that they wanted a change and that were not able to get it done by legal means. So they decided to have an armed revolution. They got their way, and the people got what they thought they wanted in the form of a communist government. But fast forward another 50 years and people realized that it was the wrong decision and now want democracy. They wanted democracy, but what is to come of it? If they are granted their wish, I think that they should look back and realize that a dictatorship is the best way to govern a nation.
Fidel Castro was born near Biran, Cuba in 1926. He is a Cuban revolutionary and politician who held the post of Prime Minister of Cuba from 1959 to 1976 and was then president from 1976 to 2008. When you first began ruling Cuba, why choose communism over democracy?
I would first like to state that communism is not what most people believe to think it is. Just because the decisions are made by only a group of extremely well-educated individuals does not mean that people will be unsatisfied. I have ruled Cuba under a communistic form of government from 1959 to 1976, bettering the government daily and accumulating a surplus for the use of the country by millions in even the first month of my reign. Decisions for the country's benefit were being made daily and not passed around to be approved from place to place by other idols in the government, which would take years. Cuba would have never been able to move forward and progress if it had passed a law just as simple as the drinking or driving age would have to be ratified and passed around to every idol in the government to prove or even disapprove the law being worked on.
Yes, Mr. Fidel, what you say is true. You have bettered the country's economy and satisfied the people. But may you then explain why in fact 70% of the citizens of Cuba want democracy?
Simply answered by the people not knowing what they want. When I overthrew the previous dictator of Cuba, Fulgencio Batista, most of Cuba had fought with me to run a different form of government, communism, which at the time is exactly what the people wanted. Now, after me developing the country for over 45 years, the people now wanted to change to a new form of government, democracy. Even though the people once claimed, in fact, to be satisfied due to the right of equality and jobs for men and women as well as education, they now want more. Power comes with experience and an exceptionally high form of knowledge regarding the countries and what is for the better. There is no room in a government to hear the voices of the rich, middle class and poor, comparing and contrasting what people want, trying to agree and make a decision that would satisfy all. Keeping in mind that there is a large portion of uneducated citizens which could potentially unite and pass a law, not aware of the in-depth downfalls that laws can create, where the consequences will appear in a month or even 20 years.